We are wrestling.
Olympic hero Kurt Angle, and you're listening to the We Are Wrestling Podcast. We Are Wrestling Podcast.
Let's flip and go.
You're watching We Are Wrestling.
I'm the host with the most.
You are by far the least intelligent.
What is going on? We are Wrestling Maniacs. Ben here, one half of the We Are Wrestling podcast.
We Are Wrestling Podcast.
Make sure to subscribe, baby.
We are wrestling.
What is up? We are Wrestling Maniacs out there worldwide. I'm the host with the most, Mr. We Are Wrestling himself, the best one, Donnie, here with a special guest.
It's Ricky Williams, a.k.a. Ricky Knows Best, a.k.a. the man of the hour, a.k.a. the man that just landed on the roof, a.k.a. the co-host with the most. Shout out to Donnie and Ben, and We Are Wrestling for having me today.
So guys, you guys are all probably wondering where the Load Rager Uncle Ben is at. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it to this week's episode, so that's why we brought in Ricky Knows Best, because obviously he knows best, so why not bring him here on the podcast for the first time ever, not doing a cameo, this time being a part of the full episode. But before we dive into all the good topics we have this week, if you're not a We Are Wrestling Maniac yet already and you're listening to the podcast, give us a 5-star review, not just any review, a best one review, and download the episode. But if you haven't checked out the We Are Wrestling YouTube channel and you're not a part of the thousands of subscribers, we recommend you to hit that subscribe button now, turn on the post notifications. Videos be coming out of nowhere like an RKO, and of course you already know the grind is real. So, Ricky, I gotta ask you before we dive into our highlight of the week, how does it feel to be on the We Are Wrestling podcast for the very first time?
It's a blessing. It's a good blessing. It's a new start. It's a new way to express myself and my love of wrestling to other guys that love wrestling just as much as me, probably even more than me. And the culture of professional wrestling that's been around for years, even since we were born. But on top of that, I'm just blessed to be with guys that have this much knowledge of wrestling just like I do. Opinions might be different, but it's always a positive blessing to have guys that know as much as you do, even more. Just shout out to We Are Wrestling again, though.
And that's the thing, like, about the We Are Wrestling podcast and the We Are Wrestling family that I love is that we all have different opinions when it comes to professional wrestling and sports entertainment. And the best thing about doing this weekly podcast is that we get to express how we feel about certain things going on in this wrestling world. And I always love to hear from other people's perspectives on certain things. And I'm very excited to have you here because I know how passionate you are about podcasting. I know you have plans in the future that you do want to start your own podcast, and I love that we're able to give you an opportunity here to try it out.
Yeah. I'm just practicing right now. Like, I'm still getting into it. I'm kind of shy when it comes to this, coming to this a little bit. But he's been training me, and I'm blessed that he's been training me because I'm shy as heck. Like
I got 15 years of experience, man.
No, it's not that I'm shy on the mic. It's just like when you're doing it on YouTube and people are watching you, people got different opinions on how you should take it. But then I'm like, it makes me nervous how to get it every single time. But I'm glad I got, like I said, I'm getting some training in. I'm getting some reps in. I'm learning how to do this little by little. And I apologize, but I'm gonna catch up in due time. I'm a quick learner and a quick study, believe me.
And that's the thing, man. Like, this didn't happen for me overnight because a lot of people don't know this, but I started creating content back in 2009 when I was only 12 years old doing this.
Wow.
And it took me a while to get very comfortable on camera. I pretty much have done all different types of content throughout the years on YouTube, and it's crazy that We Are Wrestling became... I never expected two loves of mine, two passions that I had to just combine, which was obviously YouTube, content creating, and professional wrestling, because obviously I grew up loving this sport, and I still love this sport to this day, and I love that we get to do live watch-alongs, which, guys, if you don't check out the live watch-alongs, Ricky, he's always there watching the pay-per-views and the premier live events with us, and that's why, guys, I gave Ricky the Ricky Knows Best as well. I gave him those little segments because I thought it would be a great way for him to get his reps in. I thought it would be a great way for him to start gaining some confidence on the camera, and I think that it's going to help him long term. Plus, I'm not going to lie, I might be a little biased here, but I think the Ricky Knows Best segments are the best here on We Are Wrestling. I love them. Always get a kick out of them.
It's still a little, like I said, I'm still training on that a little bit. I know I gotta, some people have been saying my voice, some people I talk to off camera, because they watch me, they're like, your voice should be up a little bit more, and then I'm like this, I don't like the, you know this, I don't like to shout like that much around people at all, because I don't want to make it look like it's a situation that is not, but they told me to speak up more, and I told them, trust me, in the future I got y'all, but I don't want to act out in front of the cameras neither. Trust me.
Well, that's the good thing about having your own microphone here, Ricky, is that I was able to adjust the microphone all the way up so that they get to hear your voice.
Nah, I needed it. I needed it, though. I don't, like I said, I don't like, I'd rather keep my voice down. Like, if I gotta tune it up a little bit, trust me, I will. But I apologize if I'm a little low. But in the future, I'm gonna get a little up there. Trust me.
I think you're doing pretty good, Ricky, for your first time. But speaking of which, I do want to advertise a couple videos that we do have on the We Are Wrestling YouTube channel. Last month, new episode of Old School versus New School came out, where myself, the voice of the faithful, Phil, and Ben guest starred on Old School, New School. We talked about some of our favorite celebrities throughout the years in professional wrestling who have crossed over. Also, this past week, a new episode of Hot Takes where I give you guys my hot takes on things going on in the professional wrestling world. I talked about the Sammy Guevara suspension, so if you guys want to get my thoughts on that, yeah, you can go hear me rant for 20 minutes about that over on Hot Takes. Which, Ricky, what's your thoughts on that?
In my opinion, it was a little dumb, honestly. So it's a little stupid. Because at the end of the day, these guys are professional wrestlers, man. Professional wrestlers make mistakes all the time. But to suspend him over an injury like that, I don't see how that is really justifiable. Because, like I said, Sammy Guevara, I've always seen him as a talented wrestler. But then at the same time, I've never understood why he got suspended for a mistake like that. Like, I think it's disrespectful to me.
Yeah, I ranted about that for a while on Hot Takes, so guys, if you want to hear me rant about that, go check out Hot Takes. Also, we do have some wrestling reactions this week. You guys get to see my genuine reaction to Okada joining AEW, and that is out on the We Are Wrestling YouTube channel. Also, we will be talking about it later on during the We Are Wrestling podcast. And also, another thing too, we have a couple events coming up on March 16th. Myself, I will be at the Big Event New York in Long Island, New York. So if you guys do see me there, I will be vlogging. Come say what's up. And then next weekend after that, we got a busy weekend because on Friday, the 22nd, We Are Wrestling, myself, Ricky Knows Best, and Uncle Ben. We're going to be at Blitzkrieg Pro at Tower Square in Springfield, Mass. They got a very stacked card, so we'll be there in the house, probably vlogging. If you can't make it, you can check it out on IWTV for only $10 a month. But that Saturday, We Are Wrestling, we will be having a table at the the Wrestling Classic 4 at the South End Community Center in Springfield, Mass. They got lots of legends that are going to be there, so if you're in the Springfield, Mass, Western Mass area, highly recommend coming out and meeting some of these legends.
Definitely.
But Ricky, every week I do this thing. I ask Ben, I ask Cam, I ask whoever's sitting by me the highlight of the week. So, when it comes to professional wrestling, Ricky, what has been your highlight of the week so far this week?
I'm not going to be biased by this because everybody should already know my answer clearly. His AEW debut, Kazuchika Okada joining AEW and aligning himself with the Elite. The shocker. But I wasn't too surprised. As soon as I seen him come out in that suit, I already knew what was going down. And him turning heel is it's actually good for him because to all the New Japan fans that watch New Japan or the wrestling fans, Okada, he was all about New Japan was literally all about the wrestling over there. It was all about having the greatest matches, the best matches on the card. Literally, it was all about fighting, that fighting spirit. But when Okada came over to AEW officially now, he's officially signed, correct?
He is officially signed.
He's officially signed, so now he understands he has to do more than have a great match now. He has to build his character up. He needed that heel turn because, like I said, Okada's been literally a face for almost 15 years. He needed that face turn. I mean, that heel turn, sorry. He needed that heel turn. He needed that character change. He just needed to build his style up. And him aligning himself with the Young Bucks, I think that'll do that for him. What you think?
So, I will give you guys the contract details because they did come out earlier today. And Okada signed a 3-year deal with AEW that is worth $13 million. So he is making roughly $4 million a year. He is getting the bag, and I will give my thoughts more when we get into the topic, but I will say it definitely caught me off guard. It caught me by surprise, and I love the fact that they had him show up this week on Dynamite instead of next week for Big Business, because obviously we know the speculations. Mercedes Moné, she's going to be all elite, which I'm excited about, and I thought Okada, he was going to show up as well during Big Business. So I will say they definitely caught me off guard there, but I love surprises and him aligning himself with the Young Bucks. I think that this is what these new EVP characters need. Mm-hmm. They need a guy like Okada. I thought he was going to get lost in the shuffle, but I will admit I'm wrong, because you're putting yourself in the best position if you're in a storyline angle with the Young Bucks.
Mm-hmm. And he's got history with them. He's got history with the whole Elite too. So it really works in his favor.
So I do want to give my highlight of the week, and this one is nothing in particular. I thought wrestling as a whole this week absolutely kicked ass. Raw was very entertaining to watch. And I even thought AEW Revolution was a great pay-per-view, great send-off to the Icon Sting. And I also really enjoyed just AEW as a whole picking up this momentum, because I saw a lot of people's feedback after I did my reactions before I did this episode with you, and a lot of people aren't a fan of the new logo, a lot of people aren't a fan of the new intro, and here's a hot take. I actually really love the new branding for AEW Dynamite. I think the intro reminds me of like an old school Raw and like Ruthless Aggression. And I just really enjoyed like the tunnels coming back, the colors, the ropes are white, so like now you could see more what's going on in the ring instead of just like typical black ropes. Like, I really enjoyed AEW as a whole this past week, because I felt like ever since World's End, they lost so much momentum. And like this past week, from having a kick-ass pay-per-view like Revolution to this new Dynamite, the show actually made sense the entire 2 hours. I paid attention. The matches were fantastic. The storylines, we have something to look forward to for Collision next week on Dynamite with Big Business. AEW as a whole, that is my highlight of the week, because I've been waiting for AEW to pick up some momentum.
They finally listen to the critics a little bit more, what they need to do.
I totally agree with that. And speaking of listening to the critics, you guys all know that I'm a wrestling figure collector, and one of the things that I complained about was these Walmart exclusive AEW figures. They just have this gold foil, but if you go to Target, they have the red foil on the packaging. And it seems like they listened to me because they showed some rendering images for the upcoming Young Buck Walmart exclusive figures, and they added the blue to it. So AEW, Tony Khan, you're finally listening to the people. I love it. That's my highlight of the week. So, with that being said, let's dive into the We Are Wrestling weekly recap for the We Are Wrestling podcast episode 98. And starting things off, because this week we have lots of AEW news because they just came off a huge pay-per-view that got over $1 million gate. At AEW Revolution, the Icon Sting made his retirement. From the highlights, the show that you saw, what were your thoughts on his send-off? Did AEW give him the proper send-off?
Yeah, they really did a good job on Sting send off. They really did. Ever since he started over there in AEW, they've treated him right. They booked him well. They treated him like the legend he was, and it felt real nostalgic because they made him look like, even though he was doing all of these tag team matches, he looked like a contender sometimes, or even the world title at times.
Yeah.
But pairing him with Darby Allin was also a very good move because he's actually putting over Darby Allin, and then he's also teaching him the ropes when he leaves. And the Young Bucks, shout out to the Young Bucks, because I give the Young Bucks a lot of bash, a lot lately.
I think a lot of us do.
I give the Young Bucks a lot of bash, but they really put Sting over. I thought the Bucks were really gonna beat Sting for those tag team titles, but instead they did the professional route. They took the professional route.
Put him over.
And he put the legend over in his retirement, and I salute the Young Bucks for that, man, because you don't see a lot of veterans today doing that for the OGs. They're just like, oh, I need the spotlight. Nah, the Young Bucks, they really put Sting over in his last match, and I'm really excited and happy for that. Like, that's what we need more in professional wrestling.
And that's the thing, though. Like, I do want to say, because you just talked about Darby Allin, and I keep hearing a lot of AEW critics. They continue to say, oh, Sting, he went undefeated. Who did he put over during his AEW run because he went undefeated? He put over Darby Allin!
Exactly.
Literally!
Exactly.
He put over Darby Allin, and Darby became a bigger star because of being by Sting's side. That's how Darby Allin was able to become an established character.
Yep.
Was having Sting by his side and learning the ropes, like you said. So when people are saying, oh, freaking Sting, he didn't put anybody over during his run in AEW. Bullshit!
And even if Sting lost all these matches, y'all have been blaming Tony Khan right now. Y'all would really be on Tony Khan's Twitter, adding him at every single sentence, blaming Tony Khan right now. Tony Khan did the right thing, and he put Darby Allin over, and he put Sting over in his retirement. The sky's the limit for Darby Allin if he keeps going this way.
Do you feel like Sting, because that is one thing a lot of people are wondering, do you think Sting deserved to have this undefeated streak? Should he have put people over besides Darby during his run?
I mean,
because he went 30-0, I believe.
And sometimes when I looked at some of the matches, he should have put over the Acclaim. He should have put over Brian Cage early.
Are you talking about their very first match, like the cinematic one?
Yeah, I mean it was supposed to make Sting look good too, but I think they should have put him over there. On top of that, there's FTR in a way too. I think FTR should have got the rub a little bit. I think FTR should have got the rub a little bit too. Sting, him being undefeated, I guess the wrestlers in the back, they respect him so much that they wanted to put Sting over instead.
And if you know Sting, especially behind the scenes, he's not one of those legends that goes out and politics his way around things. He's okay with putting people over. He didn't even want to win the AEW Tag Team Championship.
I heard about that.
And that just speaks high of his character. He wants what's best for AEW. And I think in this case, this was a great move because the one thing I've never criticized from Tony Khan is the way they book their legends. They do a fantastic job, and Sting, like, he almost had his career ended because of an injury that happened, unfortunately, at Night of Champions back in 2015. And the fact that he was able to get these last couple of years in AEW, and especially doing some of the craziest stunts, which I think he, rubbed off a little bit from Darby Allin there, because Darby's a little crazy.
That Darby spot, that was probably extreme moment of the year so far.
What was your thoughts on that spot? Because everybody's criticizing it.
I expected it, honestly. Darby Allin is... If you watch the Darby Allin match, and if it's a non-sanction or no holds barred, you're going to expect Darby Allin to do a bump or a moment or a work like that. So I expect y'all not to be surprised going on into the future, as I seen it coming from a mile away.
Yeah, because a lot of former legends that are in the business, they didn't like the fact that he did this crazy spot because they felt like it was taking away from Sting's retirement, and they think that him doing these crazy stunts, there's no meaning to it, there's no purpose to it. Here's what I got to say about that.
Sting probably told him to do it. He probably told him in the back to do it.
But here's the thing, though. Here's what I got to say about that, because I feel like Darby gets too much criticism by everybody, and it's like, if he wants to freaking jump onto a casket, let the man jump into a casket. Right. He wants to get thrown down flights of stairs, let him. Mm-hmm. If he wants to do a front flip into glass, by all means, go right ahead.
Right.
And a lot of people are saying, oh, like, it's meaningless, this and that, but people don't realize that Darby Allin's character is being this daredevil that just doesn't give a fuck.
Right.
And Darby doing this is the most Darby Allin thing to do. Right. And I think it added so much more to this match. I think that there was really nothing wrong with it, as long as Darby Allin was okay with doing the spot, which I'm assuming he really is, because he just doesn't care.
Yeah, and like I said, Sting probably is the one that told him to do it in the back before the match. He make as much magic happen possible in my final match.
Because here's the thing, though, about Darby doing these crazy spots is Sting, obviously, he still got it in the ring. Yep. Like, I'm not going to say he doesn't, but because he's not the same Sting that we saw in TNA or WCW or even his short WWE run, Darby doing these crazy spots, it makes the matches more exciting. Right. And it really helped Sting out in the process, which is why I think these two together was absolutely perfect. It was magic.
I thought at a minute, and you probably thought the same thing, I thought we were going to see a heel turn from Darby.
I thought we were going to get that low-key. I think if it was WWE, they would have done that.
Yeah, I thought we were going to get a Darby Allin heel turn. Even if they won the championships, Darby low blows them, gives them the coffin drop, drops the tag team titles right there. I thought that was going to happen, honestly.
Hey, but he is a fan favorite, so I think they definitely made the right call there. But I will say this, what a send-off for somebody so legendary. Last week on the We Are Wrestling podcast, myself and Ben, we literally put over Sting in our Getting Put Over and main event topic. So if you guys want to check that out, highly recommend it. But moving on now to our next recap of the week. This week at Monday Night Raw, it was announced that a gauntlet match will be taking place where the winner of this gauntlet match next week on Raw will face Gunther at WrestleMania 40. It will be Ricochet versus Sami Zayn versus JD McDonough versus Bronson Reed versus Chad Gable versus Shinsuke Nakamura. What's your thoughts on this?
I like the gauntlet idea. Considering Gunther literally beat all of these guys already, right? He literally beat
I think so.
Yeah, I think he's literally beaten all these guys already. But my thoughts on it, I think it's kind of...
Actually, he never beat JD McDonough. I don't think that they ever wrestled, but we all know what's going to happen with the outcome of that.
My bad. Nah, considering he's literally beating them all to a push-up from JD Dunning, I think this match is going to be good. And then on top of that, who I'm going for the most, I'm just going to get straight to it. I'm going for Chad Gable.
Yes, I'm going with Chad Gable as well.
I want him to... It's an underdog story with him. And plus, the story him and Gunther got, I was kind of interested by it because he made his little daughters cry in front of him. So it added a little bit more spark.
Oh,
to it a little bit.
whenever you can add something serious to a storyline, it adds so much more. Which is why I think what's going to happen here, and I think that this is going to be an unpopular booking decision. I just have this gut feeling that what we're perceiving Chad Gable to be, this underdog, because obviously he's made it clear like he didn't like what happened after Gunter beat him in front of his daughter.
Yep.
I think they're trying to do this underdog thing with Sami Zayn, but the problem is they've already done it with him in the bloodline. And I think a lot of people are going to be disappointed next Monday when Sami wins this. And I think Chad Gable right now is the guy. He should be the one to win this.
He should be the one. He should be the one to win this. Like I said, I like the underdog story. Chad Gable is very underrated in the ring. Gunther's been on a run with that championship. He's had
legendary.
One of the most prestigious championships in the WWE period. And Gunther, he's made it from a mid-card title to literally a main event. It's like the final boss in the game. He's literally the final boss in the game.
Bowser in
He's
WWE
like the Bowser,
Universe.
or we can even do Grand Theft Auto even. He's like literally the last boss. Going around causing trouble, doing what he needs to do, and defending his championship like a fighting champion. Despite him being a heel, he wins half his matches cleanly. And he Gunther is a wrestler, man. I'm all about guys I'm all about the guys that really respect this wrestling business and like to wrestle. Some people like the storylines. I get the storylines.
I'm a storyline guy.
I get some of these guys I get some of y'all like the storylines, but the wrestling is
I appreciate the wrestling
too. The wrestling is where I look at it. Like when I'm looking at the wrestling tells the story itself. Like every little move matters, and I'm like this. As soon as a little chop, a DDT, a suplex, even, I'm really into it. I'm like, yeah, they telling this type of story. This is the type of story I'm on. But the gauntlet match, I'm sorry.
Nah, you're good, man.
The gauntlet match is I got Chad Gable winning, but like Donnie said, Sami might get it. Sami Zayn might get it.
So my opinion earlier this week was very unpopular. I really thought I had the script here. I thought that we were going to get a ladder match at WrestleMania for the Intercontinental Championship, just by the way that they were building it. It's been a while since we've gotten one of those. But I will say, just like the AEW tournaments, I'm getting a little repetitive here when it comes to these gauntlet matches. But I get it. You have 3 hours of television. You got to kill some time here. What better way than to put all these guys in there? But here's the thing. And this is what I'm worrying about going into WrestleMania is there's only so much time you have on both nights.
Right.
And there's a lot of talented guys on this roster that deserve a WrestleMania spot. And that's why I thought that we were going to get some type of ladder match or something, because it would have been a great, easy way to put people in there and give us Bronson Reed, for example. It would give us Dirty Dom and other guys. That's where I really thought we were going to go that route. Mm-hmm. But the more I'm looking at it, if Chad Gable wins this, I'm not going to be against it at all, because I think that the matches that he had on Raw with Gunter deserve to be a Premier Live event match. Mm-hmm. I think Chad Gable needs to get away from the Alpha Academy. It's time for him to go more serious.
Yeah, it really is time for him to go serious. And the ladder match would make sense too. Let me tell you why. In certain cases, Gunter would still look strong losing the title because he didn't get pinned nor submitted for that championship. He lost it. He lost it in a ladder match. So Gunter, in that way, if it would have been defending the ladder match, he would have lost. He still would have looked strong. He didn't get pinned or submitted. He can have a rematch there, and then they can build Gunter up to the next level to the world title from there on out. But the ladder match makes a lot of sense.
It definitely does, and I think Gunter should come out of WrestleMania as the Intercontinental Champion. And what I would do is, which I've said this before, I would do on Monday Night Raw, the night after Mania, have Jey Uso, who beat Jimmy, go against Gunter for the Intercontinental Championship and let him have that moment. Let's bring back that excitement for the night after WrestleMania. And I think Jey Uso winning the championship could bring so much excitement to it.
Oh, you're talking about like, well, it's not like that, but I remember Zack Ryder won the Intercontinental Championship, and then The Miz
he beat him the next night. No, but I'm talking about, like, remember Dolph Ziggler with the Money in the Bank? And he cashed it in on the World Heavyweight Championship. Like, remember that excitement that happened? Brock Lesnar returning to WWE back in, I believe, 2012.
Yep, that's
the
right.
night after Mania.
Yep, that's right after
We got
Mania.
Fandango's debut. Like, there's so much that has happened the night after Mania, and we've lost that excitement. And I think, like, if they're going to have Sammy win this, have him lose the Gunther at Mania. It'll add more to his underdog story. And then have Jey Uso on Raw beat Gunther for the championship and get that massive pop. Bring back that excitement.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And nobody will expect it either.
I agree with you. But like I said, having in the ladder match would make a lot of sense too, though.
Definitely. But moving on now to a New Japan Pro Wrestling topic, which I did watch this, so I can give my thoughts on this. Jack Perry, Jungle Bitch, the scapegoat, has officially joined the House of Torture. After defeating Okada Umuno, did I say that right?
No, Shooter Umuno.
Shuta Umuno.
Yeah.
In the first round of the New Japan Cup tournament, Perry was asked about not wrestling for 6 months, and he stated that, "I feel amazing. You want to know why? I haven't had a wrestling match for 6 months. Just for a little point of reference, during the absolute worst time in my entire life, I took 1 month for me. So now you wonder why 6 months now. I'll tell you what, it ain't 'cause of me. It's because other people are afraid. Nobody wants to have the difficult conversations. Everyone's afraid to let me come back or even let me go, even when I effing asked for it." What's your thoughts on his work so far in New Japan Pro Wrestling?
I'm actually very intrigued by it. I'm actually I'm into it now because Jack Perry, aka Jungle Boy, was one of the 4 pillars of AEW, if I'm correct.
Yep.
Stand me if I'm corrected.
It was Jungle Boy, MJF, Darby Allin, and Sammy Guevara.
Yep, and then that's a new character change for Jack Perry, and then him joining the House of Torture really would help him, because the House of Torture is literally one of the top heel factions, the top heel faction in New Japan Pro Wrestling at this moment.
So are they like above Bullet Club right now as like top heel factions, or
it's kind of a side faction. Like they're still they're still in Bullet Club, but you see it and I see it because I've seen it for like several years. They're going to defect soon and be on their own. But House of Torture literally still is under Bullet Club, but they're really not in Bullet Club, if that makes sense.
Okay, no, that does make sense.
But they really are under them.
Because obviously for me, I don't watch New Japan Pro Wrestling, so that's why I'm very interested in this. And that's where I want to get into this here, because I have slandered Jungle Boy for quite a while, ever since the whole media scrum thing that happened. Well, not media scrum, the All-In incident that happened with the Real Glass.
This is Glass.
And I came up with a nickname, Jungle Bitch, and I'm here to say this. Him going to New Japan Pro Wrestling was the best decision he's ever made for his wrestling career. I think what happened was absolutely meant to be, because I'm not going to lie, during this heel turn, it was really going nowhere. He was greener than the grass outside during when spring first starts. Mm-hmm. And I feel like New Japan Pro Wrestling is a great way for him to really dip his toes in the water as a heel, and I think give him that confidence that he needs, which I think that this is great what he's doing, because obviously there's real tension there between him and AEW, I'm sure, because they had big plans for him as a heel. And for them to write him off of television because of what happened with CM Punk during one of the biggest shows in the company's history, having him go back to New Japan, especially with this new homeless look, I think is great. Especially the nickname, the scapegoat. I love the mask he came out with. The presentation is there. And even having him show up in New Japan ripping the contract, what a great surprise. Yep. Nobody saw it coming, which is, for me, I was very impressed with it, and moving forward, I can't call him Jungle Bitch.
No, I'm
impressed.
It's a very good look for him. And y'all might call me crazy for this, but give him another 6 months, depending on how long give him another 6 months, he could be the top Gaijin, aka foreigner over there in New Japan. Jack Perry can be one of those guys. They got a few guys over there that can be foreigners, top foreigners, but I really don't see it right now. But Jack Perry, he got a lot of potential to be a top foreigner, aka a top heel over there with House of Torture. And him being around Evil, being around House of Torture, they cheat a lot in a lot of their matches. 99% of their matches they cheat. So getting that heel element inside, along with the character change, gonna be a big boost for him.
And that's the thing I do want to say as well. Obviously, we've saw his promo work in AEW, and it's laughable. But the promo work that I'm seeing right now in New Japan Pro Wrestling with him, this, like...
Good improvement.
Is this a new person? Like this is the Jack Perry that I've been waiting for at AEW. And I think him going to New Japan, great decision, whoever came up with it. And honestly, I don't watch New Japan, but I'm definitely going to be watching what Jack Perry's doing in New Japan. I'm going to be paying attention to these interviews, these promos, probably even watch some of his matches as well. I'm very impressed with everything that he's doing right now.
And he's got a lot of shoes to fill in the Jai-Jin foreigner spot. Because Will Ospreay and Jay White, all the top guys, they're gone from New Japan. So Jack Perry, if you're going to have to make this work, he's going to have to play big. He's going to have to step up and play big. He's going to have to be that guy. Because I'm going to be honest with you. As a New Japan Pro Wrestling fan, David Finlay, I'm sorry, but you are not that guy, with all due respect.
Yep, I think that Brogan Finley's better than him.
Yep.
That's right.
Yep.
Which, by the way, I got to give him a shout out, because on this past Tuesday on NXT, he actually did make his debut, and he wrestled Sean Spears. So I always love seeing people that I first got to watch in the independent wrestling scene get opportunities like this, and he's only getting started, and I wish him nothing but the very best in his career in WWE.
Yep, I wish him the best too. I'm wishing him nothing but the biggest best. I hope he gets to the main roster.
21 years old too, so he's got years.
Or he can be a main event guy in NXT.
Years to come.
He can be a main event guy.
But moving on now to our next AEW Revolution recap. At AEW Revolution, Roderick Strong defeated Orange Cassidy for the AEW International Championship. After the match, we saw the return of Kyle O'Reilly, who's been out of action for over 2 years with a neck injury. What's your thoughts on the angle, and what's your thoughts on him being back in the ring?
I'm very excited for Kyle O'Reilly to come back to wrestling. I'm kind of looking forward to what he's going to do in the story. It's kind of interesting. I've seen it before, but the story is kind of interesting. I think he's conflicted in certain ways on if he should join the Undisputed Kingdom. That's what they call themselves, right?
Yep, Undisputed Kingdom.
Or if he should just stay solo. I think he should be a face. I think the fans were behind him. He was over. He was kind of over when I heard that reaction. And the fans look like they're into this character and the story that he's doing. So I should say, in my opinion, y'all should just let Kyle O'Reilly be on his own, stay a face. See where this all goes and see how it affects him. If it's good criticism, if it's really good, I think they should just keep Kyle O'Reilly as a face. Have him feud Adam Cole. Or the Undisputed Kingdom even.
That would be great.
Have him feud. Like Adam Cole, he can go Wardlow, or Adam Cole when he comes back, or he can even team up with MJF. I'm probably going overboard with that one.
Yeah, I think a little bit, but I think that Kyle O'Reilly and Roderick Strong, that would be a great feud for the International Championship. I think that they could definitely have a solid feud there, and especially because of the history that they have, that's what's going to make it even more interesting. And honestly, I love that we're not getting answers. I love that he's walking around it. He still has love for the Undisputed Kingdom.
But he's conflicted.
Because of the history, but he's conflicted. And I think that we are going to be getting a babyface Kyle O'Reilly. And I think that what they have a really big opportunity here to do something. And I hope eventually at some point Bobby Fish does come back to AEW, because for me, man, I love Red Dragon. But I know at the same time, Kyle O'Reilly is also a fantastic singles competitor as well, which I don't remember what pay-per-view it was, but he had a match. I think it was Double or Nothing a couple years ago. He faced Darby Allin in this random match, but it was so good. Kyle O'Reilly, he's always been my favorite guy in the Undisputed Era. And for him to be back in AEW after a almost career-ending injury, I'm very happy for him, and I can't wait to see where this goes, and I really hope he stays healthy and he has himself a great run because, man, the sky is the limit with him.
I mean, he's got a lot of he's got main event potential. He's been main event before in the past, but he's got a lot of main event. Like Kyle O'Reilly, he is very underrated. If y'all don't know Kyle O'Reilly, I can't talk to y'all. I can't associate with y'all. Y'all gotta know Kyle.
You
He's
better
very
go
underrated.
subscribe to Honor Club, or you better go on YouTube and look up some of his work because he is fantastic.
Past work, Ring of like Donnie said, New Japan work, even WWE NXT work.
Absolutely. But moving on now to our last recap of the week. During AEW Dynamite, man, so much AEW and New Japan stuff this week. This week, the Young Bucks suspended Hangman Adam Page and fired Kenny Omega from the Elite and replaced him with the Rainmaker Okada. What's your thoughts on this move? Which obviously we all know how happy you are about it because that was your highlight of the week.
I'm very happy about it. Like I'm looking to see where this Rainmaker personality goes. And Okada, this is his character change up. This is Okada's entertainment form. The wrestling will be there, ladies and gentlemen. But now the entertainment, the heel Okada, I haven't seen since 2012.
Oh, that long?
He's been a face for almost a decade over there, bro.
Holy shit.
Even if he wasn't, like, he was a face.
So is that why a lot of people in the pro wrestling world right now are, like, shocked by this heel turn?
Yep, Okada hasn't been a heel for almost a decade, ladies and gentlemen. And even if he was a face, the fans like certain wrestlers more than Okada at times. But he was always a face over in New Japan for the last decade.
Do you know what caught me off guard here? And I didn't realize this, obviously, until afterwards. If you watch the main event for AEW Revolution, when the Young Bucks came out, they were wearing... they were wearing the robes. Okada, like, it's the same, like, robe that Okada wears to the ring. They really got us good there with the Easter egg. That I don't think anybody saw that happening.
And I didn't see it. I didn't see that either. Like, I thought it was a Ric Flair thing. I thought for a minute I thought Ric Flair was gonna turn on Sting too.
I thought it because he's the dirtiest player of the game. There's always friggin' doubts about.
And the
Ric
story
Flair.
was there. The way he was covering, like, because Ric Flair's done this low key in the past. The way it was covering Sting's body, you think he was up to something, and you were like, "Oh, the Young Bucks are about to steal this." But then he actually protected Sting, so it was literally a mystery for us until we got to a certain point of the match.
Yeah, because I feel like when it comes to, like, us pro wrestling maniacs, like us fans, we always overanalyze everything. And I think going into Sting's final match, everybody, well, not everybody, because I can't speak for everybody, but, like, myself, I overanalyzed the situation. I thought that Sting was going to put over the Young Bucks, even though he did somewhat, but obviously, we all, like, you and I thought the Young Bucks were going to win the championships.
Shout out to the Bucks.
And also, as well, like, when it comes to the whole main event thing, like, we thought Ric Flair could have turned on Sting as well. There was, like, 100 different scenarios running through my head, and the one scenario that, like, just didn't come across my mind was Sting can win his final match, have a happy send-off, give him his flowers, and remain undefeated and being an AEW Tag Champ. And look what happened.
Yeah.
I overanalyzed it.
My favorite Sting moment. My Sting moment was the whole Crow personality when he came back.
Oh, the Crow was the best.
That was my favorite Sting person. He was literally terrorizing the whole WCW locker room and the NWO at the same time. He was literally pledging his allegiance in silence. Like, he was testing WCW and the NWO. He was giving them the bat to see. The Sting's whole Crow run was just legendary. But the match with Hogan, the Starrcade match, kind of.
Yep, that was one of my favorite matches.
That kind of. But no, that whole Sting Crow gimmick, the whole run was literally my favorite. Him being silent, 96 to literally almost 98, those were my favorite moments. Every Sting moment, I can even picture in the back of my head. That was my favorite Sting moment altogether.
Absolutely.
I can't pick one out of it. I gotta pick the whole thing.
And that's the thing, getting back into the Young Bucks here. I've said it for weeks. A lot of people really don't like the new EVP characters. I actually really like it, and I see the potential there because everybody that hates AEW, what's the one thing, Ricky, that they criticize about the Young Bucks?
Them not putting people over, or them in their egotistic ways.
Nobody that's an EVP should be in the active wrestler. Nobody that's an EVP should be an active wrestler. It should be for guys like Tony Khan and other people out there that have done it in the business.
Right.
And that is the one criticism that the Young Bucks get. And what better way to get heat than to call yourselves the EVPs?
Embrace it.
Embrace the hate. And I think what they're doing here is great because the Young Bucks, they're always at their best when they're these whiny dorks.
Yeah.
Let's be real. Like, I think the work that they did with Kenny Omega back in, I want to say 2022, was fantastic.
For the tag team titles?
Yep, when the Young Bucks were the tag team champions, when they were just like dressed weird, and they had Brandon Cutler with them. And remember the time when they dressed up as the Hardys with Brandon Cutler with the Lita thong? Like, I love when the Young Bucks are arrogant. And I think them as EVPs, like, what better way to do that? Plus, we don't really have an authority figure on AEW, so, like, to have them do it and get heat in the process of it is brilliant. And now bringing in one of the hottest free agents, Okada, just icing on the cake. I thought that this was a great move for everybody involved because I thought that Okada was better off going to WWE than AEW, and I'm proud to admit I was wrong. And I thought that the Young Bucks, I did not think the Young Bucks would be aligned with Okada. That was the last thing running across my mind. I thought that Okada was going to get this push where he was going to be in big matches, and then he was going to get lost in the shuffle. But man, I was wrong, and I'm glad I'm wrong because he's so fucking talented, and he's getting the opportunity to show it. And what better way than to be aligned with the Young Bucks, especially with this new authority character?
Yep.
Love it.
I'm with it too. At first, I'm going to keep it honest because I told him off camera plenty of times. I wanted the Rainmaker to stay in New Japan forever.
You did.
I wanted him to stay there forever.
I think you said it on Ricky Knows Best. I think.
I wanted the Rainmaker to stay on New Japan Pro Wrestling forever, like retire there. But after seeing yesterday's Dynamite episode, him joining the Young Bucks, it's pretty effective now. It's pretty strong, and I'm actually getting behind it. There's storylines that could be made for days with this angle. Very good storylines.
So many storylines, and I think what we're gonna get, Ricky, is at AEW All-In at Wembley. I think Kenny Omega is gonna be cleared by then, and I feel like we're getting Omega versus Okada.
Part 5, ladies and gentlemen. Y'all know the first 4 matches, right? Literally legendary matches. If we get a 5th one, it might break the internet. And who knows, they might go 2 hours. Let me calm that down. But that's Okada being a heel is really going to work for him in New Japan. Plus, his promo work, it was good in New Japan, but like the language barrier in the AEW, he's going to have to work on that a little bit more.
But having the Young Bucks by his side, I think that's going to help him a lot.
Yep, and the Young Bucks can be a mouthpiece for him. And this heel personality is it can be entertaining in some ways too. The wrestling is going to be there with Kazuchika Okada. Believe that, ladies and gentlemen. But the heel personnel and everything else, you're not going to get used to that because I don't think a lot of people have seen that in Okada for the past decade. But you're all going to see that now from the Rainmaker. Like the heel personnel, we're going to see how that works out.
I can't wait to see it. But up next, we have the comment of the week. And, of course, the We Are Wrestling Weekly news and rumors. We'll be right back with more We Are Wrestling Podcast episode 98. Saturday, March 23rd, both Captain's Corner and Zombie Hideout are putting together the Wrestling Classic 4 in Springfield, Mass. You can get the opportunity to meet WWE Hall of Famer Eric Bischoff, Elias, Matt Riddle, The Franchise, Shane Douglas, The Sandman, Diva Search winner Christy Hemme, Hornswoggle, and so many more wrestlers. We Are Wrestling will be in the house as a vendor at this event, selling t-shirts, meeting our fans, vlogging, and having a good time on Saturday, March 23rd at the South End Community Center in Springfield, Mass. We hope to see you there at the Wrestling Classic 4. We're back, and every week here on the We Are Wrestling podcast, we do this thing called the Comment of the Week. If you want to get your comment featured on a future episode of the We Are Wrestling podcast, all you gotta do is just comment on any video or any post we make over on our social media pages. This week, the winner is at TheBadger1056, and he commented this on my Seth Rollins reaction from this past Monday on Raw. He said, and I quote, "Seth turning on Cody does nothing but kills all the character development his character has gone through the last few years. Literally, it's a step backwards for all involved. It makes zero sense." What's your thoughts on that comment of the week, Ricky?
You literally just said everything I wanted to say. It makes zero sense. We have to go through this bloodline thing another year. I'm gonna lose my mind. And I got no problems. Let me get it clear. I got no problems with Roman Reigns, The Rock, Cody, Seth Rollins. I don't got no problem with none of these guys, right? But if we got to do another bloodline thing for another year with Roman holding the belt, I'm gonna literally lose my mind, bro. It's time for change
over
now.
it.
It's a new era. It's time for a new era now. Roman has proven this point 3 years straight. But if he holds his belt one more time and this bloodline thing continues, I'm gonna lose my mind. There's a lot of wrestlers and stars out here, and they're still sticking to the same thing for the next 3 to 4 years.
I just don't get the thinking process here. We're over the run, and it's not even the fact that he's a heel why we're hating on this.
Nope.
We're just completely over the part-timers being champions at this point.
And let me put something about the part-timers. Listen, you can be part-time wrestlers, right? Just don't hold the championships hostage.
Thank you. Thank you, Ricky.
Like, there's wrestlers, there's full-time wrestlers competing every single week almost, literally entertaining us and wrestling for us and putting on the show for us. And you part-time champions aren't here to defend your title or put any prestige to it. That kills motivation and that kills the wrestling culture low-key.
Exactly.
If you're the best wrestler in the world like you claim that you are, you have to be here. Part-time wrestlers should go. I'm sorry.
That's the thing, like, if you're a part-time wrestler, by all means, you could still be on the premier live events. You could still be on the pay-per-views and the shows and the specials. But you shouldn't be holding a championship. The people, like, I remember back in the day, old school wrestling, man. And I learned a lot of this from the Old School versus New School podcast with Phil. We do it once a month, wherever you listen to your podcast, or over on the YouTube channel. Just a nice little cheap plug there. But one thing I always learned was the Intercontinental Championship back in the day was the workhorse championship.
Facts.
And that's how all the championships should be. It should be going to the hard workers. And I feel like, don't get me wrong, Logan Paul is fantastic at what he does. And he has done a great job with the U.S. Championship. But you need to be defending the championship, in my opinion, at least once or twice a month. And if you can't do that, then you shouldn't be champion. Roman Reigns, he's literally just proven it over and over again. I am just over the whole bloodline thing, and that's why Seth Rollins turning on Cody, it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever, and I really hope that they don't go down this route, because Seth Rollins is right now one of the top baby faces in the company. We're finally making progress with Seth and Cody, so what's the point of breaking them up? And Rollins right now is dealing with injuries, so after WrestleMania, he's probably going to take some time off, so what's the point of having him turn on Cody? It needs to be The Rock that turns on Roman. They don't need a championship for WrestleMania 41. Let's set that up. Cody Rhodes deserves to be the WWE Universal Champion and go to the SmackDown brand, because they need to have that mega babyface.
I don't even think the WWE Championship, I don't even think it has any prestige right now. Roman Reigns is getting all of the. He's getting all the prestige. He's getting all the respect. The championship, it really doesn't seem important. It's just Roman holding it or being associated. They're making Roman feel more important than the championship.
Exactly, and I think that's the issue there. But congratulations, the V Badger 1056 on the comment of the week.
I love that comment too. Like, I'm glad somebody pointed that out.
And if you want to get your comment featured on a future episode of the podcast, all you got to do is just leave a comment. But now, with that being said, let's get into the We Are Wrestling weekly news and rumors for the We Are Wrestling podcast episode 98. And starting things off, we have another AEW topic. There's so much AEW this week to talk about, so it might be a good thing that Uncle Ben isn't here for this week, because he would probably be falling asleep right now. So it is kind of good that we do have somebody that also enjoys AEW like myself. Jim Ross has re-signed with AEW for 1 year. During his podcast, Grilling with JR, he stated this. He stated that, "We wrote a new deal. We wrote a completely new deal. No extension, no contract. It was probably the quickest, easiest negotiation I've ever done in my career. 50 years. And that's all because of Tony Khan's commitment to me as a broadcaster. He's always been a fan of my work, which really helps your cause when your boss is a fan of your work. It never hurts you. We've got to get a new deal. I'll be back to do more work. I'm assuming it's going to be centered around pay-per-views that we're having. We're adding more pay-per-views. There's going to be more big events. I assume as I sit here with those big events will be the pay-per-views, and I'll be involved to some degree in those. So time will tell. We'll see. I'm here. I'm getting better. That will work for me. If I'm working just the pay-per-views, I'm very happy to do that. What's your thoughts on AEW re-signing good old JR to a 1 year deal?
JR is one of the greatest commentators of all time. He's literally top 5 commentators of all time. Him and Jerry Lawler together back in the Attitude Era days to them Ruthless Aggression Era days. Jim Ross, I wish him the best in AEW, man. Like, he's one of the greatest commentators of all time, man. And he does this thing with a passion. And even when y'all think JR's done, he's really not done. Like, you got to give him his flowers while he's still here. Please, ladies and gentlemen. JR, he's one of the GOATs, man, of this thing.
Absolutely. And Jim Ross, I think, is the greatest color commentator of all time. There's no debating there. And I think that this is a great move for AEW to sign him 1 year. So it's not a long-term deal. And Jim Ross, obviously is getting up there in age. He's been having, some health issues as well. So I definitely think that overall, this is a great move to have him be a part of the big pay-per-views. Because even at AEW Revolution, having him there for Sting's final match, and also having him there for the World Championship match, added so much more. And Jim Ross just works with anybody. Like, he can make Excalibur look so good because of his experience.
He's literally a workhorse when it comes to commentators.
And Jim Ross, man, more on a part-time deal, I think, is the best decision. And I love that Tony Khan, even though we criticize his booking decisions 95% of the time, you can tell that he's such a nice, genuine dude at the end of the day. And he wants what's best for his performers. He wants what's best for the people who are helping him with All Elite Wrestling. Yep. And I love the respect he has for this business that we call professional wrestling, because the way that he treats legends, from Jim Ross to Sting's final match to Christian Cage and Adam Copeland right now having one of the best feuds, Tony Khan deserves his flowers for that. And man, I am so happy that Jim Ross is in the position that he's in right now, because obviously we know the way he was treated in WWE by Vince McMahon. We've heard the stories, and Jim Ross was thrown into a shitty situation over there. And the fact that Tony Khan can give him his respect, and I think, man, great move. Great move overall. And I think a lot of people they want AEW to fail. They want to continue to criticize AEW, but they won't talk about the good stuff. Because clearly, Jim Ross is happy with the position that he's in if he re-signed with the promotion, and even saying this is the easiest negotiation he's ever had in his career in the professional wrestling business.
Yeah, and people act like...
That speaks volumes.
My bad.
No, you're good, man.
No, people act like AEW been here for years, too. That's the other thing. Like, AEW, they're still young. Like, you got to give AEW some time here. Like, y'all just counting them out just because y'all don't like something 1 week, or they're doing this or that. Like, AEW is still a work in process. They're not WWE. Like, you got to give these guys some time here.
Look, I'm sorry for interrupting, but here's what I have to say about the criticism. I understand where a lot of these critics come from, because Tony Khan, a lot of the times, yes, his booking decisions are bad, and he's very unprofessional at times on Twitter and social media, so I understand a lot of people's frustrations, but when people are going to be criticizing him as an individual, as a person, and even the talent, because I think AEW is one of the best rosters in professional wrestling history.
They're stacked right now.
I think a lot of people really just throw that under the rug.
Yeah,
and it deserves to be praised more.
Yeah, AEW stacked. I do agree with you on the Tony Khan thing, though. Like, he argues with people on Twitter a lot. I see it. And
childish.
He literally is going into business for himself at times. Those two things right there, his personality and him responding to negativity, are the two things he needs to change in order for AEW to be. Just worry about your product getting better. Because AEW, like I said, they're only like 5 years old. They're not WWE, but like they got a lot of potential to surpass them one day, probably. That's probably a reach and a hot take, but they got a lot of potential to pass WWE one day, believe it or not.
I don't think it'll happen, but they just have to stay in their own lane, because what they're doing is incredible. They created more job opportunities for these professional wrestlers, and they're giving these guys an option who are not happy where they are. And I feel like a lot of people forget that, because remember WWE before AEW started? It was so hard to watch, and there were so many people that really fell out of love with this sport because of the direction WWE was going in. But AEW gave us another ultimatum, and it gave other guys and girls an opportunity. People that weren't happy with the booking decisions that were made during the time, they were able to jump ship. And every professional wrestler, no matter what they're doing, no matter where they're going, certain people work in certain areas, other people don't. Like I've always said it, Christian Cage, I loved Christian Cage 100,000 times more than Christian in WWE. Because that's just, he's better when he has creative control. But there's other guys that do well in the WWE system that is scripted, and they have those people for them. Like Brian Pillman Jr., Lexus King. He was a part of AEW before, and now he's currently in NXT, and he said that on Chris Van Vliet's podcast, Insight. He talked about how he likes having that script because he's able, like, it's less stress on him. So there's, like, certain levels to this shit, and I feel like people shouldn't be criticized for what they do. And I think at the end of the day, man, the way that they've treated legends like JR, my hat goes off to them, seriously.
Yeah, we gotta give JR his flowers, and now while he's still here, ladies and gentlemen, you gotta give these legends their flowers, man. Like, before they're not gonna be able to smell them forever. Give it to them now while they can get them.
Absolutely. But moving on now to our next weekly news and rumors. Recently, Corey Graves went on the Short and to the Point podcast. Graves talked about the difference with Triple H as head of creative and stated this: he also is really cool and sort of refreshing in a sense that he gives us announcers space. When he's in gorilla position right where the old boss sat, instead of being told and prompted, hey, you've got to say this, you have to say it this way, you have to use this verb. I think understands that we're all fans and we all love this in a different way. And as the business grows and evolves, have to let go of the reins a little bit. I still have my guide rails. I just feel like they're a little bit wider on each side now, where rather than to stay in a particular path and walk in a certain rhythm and do things a certain way, I have a little bit more leeway to be me and develop my own style. What's your thoughts on the commentators getting more creative freedom under Triple H? And before you do give your thoughts, he also stated that his headset has never been as quiet under Triple H.
Yeah, in a weird way, I think Triple H, he laid his law down in a different type of way. He said, you guys have a lot of freedom all you want. Like, you guys can have all the freedom on commentary all you want, but there's still boundaries that you have to respect on commentary too. Like, you have to take certain cautions and precautions when you're on commentary. But I'm letting you guys be you over here a little bit more compared to the old boss, who I call Pervy Sage, but compared to the old guy. But you guys can say literally whatever you guys want, but keep it professional and keep it at a certain pace.
And honestly,
that's what I get from it.
And that's the thing, like, I love the way Triple H goes about this business, because he knows to get the best version of you, you have to be yourself. There's a reason why the Attitude Era was so successful. There's a reason why even the Golden Era, back in the day, the larger-than-life characters were so successful, because they were just being themselves, but times 10 in front of the cameras. And I think for a while, that was missing with color commentary.
Right.
Because obviously back in the day, Vince McMahon, your nickname that you have, you want to say it?
Pervy Sage.
He was on commentary, so he could say whatever he wants because it was his company. And then obviously Jim Ross and Jerry the King Lawler, they had a little bit more leeway during that time because it wasn't PG. And it just seemed like through time, a lot of these color commentators sounded like robots. And I think under Triple H, you could tell how genuinely excited all of these color commentators are, from Booker T in NXT when Trick Williams comes out, pull that trick, to Wade Barrett, to Corey Graves, and especially Michael Cole.
Pat McAfee is funny.
Pat McAfee's great.
Standing on the table doing the Gunther. Yo, that's funny. He looked at him, he's like, that's classic work.
And that's the thing, like, they're having that freedom, and I think that's the best way for these color commentators to connect with us. We are wrestling maniacs and the fans.
Yep.
Because I remember being a child, I would watch Monday Night Raw and Thursday Night SmackDown every week. And you have to realize, when you're not there live, who is like leading the way? Like, who's like telling you the stories? Who's talking about it match by match? It was Michael Cole and Taz. It was Jerry the King Lawler and Jim Ross. And they were the voices of our childhood that we grew up. There's a reason why we fell in love with this. And it was because of them, like, doing their commentary, color commentary, playing, match by match. And when they get to be themselves, the fans get more invested in them. Right. And I love that Triple H is not in their headset 24/7 saying, you need to say this, you need to say that. Like, he's giving them that freedom. And sometimes when you have that freedom, especially to an extent, you get the best version out of certain individuals.
Yeah, you sure do. You sure do under Triple H, because you weren't getting it with Pervy Sage, I'll tell you that for sure.
Yeah, you definitely weren't. It was his way or the highway.
And you can also, like Donnie said, because I could tell too, certain SmackDowns I've watched, I kind of knew when somebody was in their ear and were like, say this, say that, say this, say that. And then I was like, yeah, the commentary, it's not the same.
It becomes boring.
Yep. I can do better at commentary if they paid me.
Because that's the thing, like, back in the day, because I know earlier we talked about a little bit how, like, you are getting into the podcasting now, and I talked about a little bit of my early career. Well, back in the day, I had this competition series called DITB1, and I even had my own original web series where I created comedy shows, drama, and a lot of the times I didn't have a script because I would have my actors, my actresses, who were my friends and my cousins. I let them say, like, I would try to get the point across, but I would want them to say it in their own perspective. I would want them to say it in their own words because if it's coming off a paper, I feel like it's just not genuine, it's not authentic, and a lot of the times you want your stuff to come off real and authentic. And I feel like a lot of the times you can't have somebody say word by word what's going to happen because then there's just going to be like 100 questions you're going to be asking, like, why didn't you say it with this? Or why didn't you say it with that? Because you're perceiving it from somebody else's vision, point of view. So, like, for me, back in the day, like, with a lot of my actors and actresses in my original web series and DITB1, my competition show, I would want my competitors to cut promos. I would give them the point, what they need to say, but I would have them say it in their own words, their own matter. And I feel like with WWE going in this direction, it's made the product way better.
Yep.
The promos are so much better now than they were during friggin' like 2019.
Yeah, because like we keep stating to you guys, Pervy Sage has left the building officially.
Thank God, and hopefully justice is served for Grant and everybody that's been affected by this fucking disgusting human being's bad behavior. But moving on now to our next weekly news and rumors, another AEW topic, getting back into it. Matt Hardy's contract is set to expire at some point in March with AEW. According to Fightful, both sides have not reached an agreement yet. Do you think Matt will become a free agent, and what do you think is next for him in his career?
I think Matt shouldn't re-sign with AEW for this reason. Because him and his brother Jeff, since they've been there, they haven't really done anything at all. Like, they've been in a few matches here and there, and they've won some matches, but then at the same time, they've been losing matches. And the matches they've been losing have been kind of high profile for them. But they haven't been getting put over. They haven't been getting pushed by this at all. In my opinion, the Hardys, Matt Hardy especially, he should get one more push in AEW before he officially calls it quits. But I don't see him re-signing, though.
I think that there's a difference between professional wrestling and sports entertainment, and I think Matt Hardy is not made for professional wrestling. He fits better in storylines and sports entertainment. There's a reason why his run in Impact Wrestling, TNA, was so successful. Because TNA, obviously, they are professional wrestling, but they do a lot of storylines, they do a lot of sports entertainment, and especially with the Broken Matt character, he was able to have this larger-than-life character that was very creative and very different for its time, which is the reason why WWE brought the Hardys back, which a lot of the times they would bring the Hardys back because it was always Jeff, but in this case, it was Matt who really got him and his brother over with this whole broken gimmick. And I think at AEW, Matt just one of the most disappointing runs, like, for anybody, and it's so disappointing. Like, I couldn't stand Big Money Matt. The broken character just didn't work in AEW. Like, the only time Matt Hardy really worked was when he was being Matt Hardy, which we only got that maybe a handful of times.
Yeah, I think this whole AEW run has been underwhelming.
Underwhelming.
It's been very quiet, and it's sad because Matt Hardy, he's somewhat underrated in the ring too a little bit. But the entertainment thing Donnie mentioned, that's where he thrives the most. And I don't think they've been using him properly at all. I don't think he should resign.
I don't think Matt should resign because he's such a creative individual. And I feel like Matt Hardy, what he should do, because obviously Jeff Hardy, he probably still has some time left on his contract. If I'm Matt, I am not re-signing. I'm going to TNA on a short deal, and pretty much go on a retirement tour. Go back to TNA where you were very successful, and then when your brother becomes a free agent, I think the Hardys should get one final match and hang up the boots.
Yep. I wanted to see them, believe it or not, I wanted to see them in the Young Bucks. For the Hardys retirement, I would like to see him in the Young Bucks.
Wait, we never got Hardys versus Young Bucks in AEW. I just realized.
Nope, never.
I am dude, the Hardys, they really should have taken the opportunity to give them the tag titles at least, because that would have brought so much relevancy to their tag division that's very stacked, and there's just going to be so many what ifs. I know it didn't help with the whole Jeff Hardy DUI and, the issues that he dealt with, which, is very unfortunate, but this run has just been so underwhelming, and I think it didn't help that the fact that AEW, during most of this run, they couldn't decide what route they wanted to go. Did they want to go more in the storyline route like they did when they first started, or more of the professional wrestling route like New Japan? And I think Matt just doesn't fit the style that AEW is looking for right now in 2024.
No, they teased after his match with John Moxley. I noticed the other brother, they did tease a heel turn with them, with Jeff especially.
Oh yeah, doing the whole thing like this, right?
They teased a heel turn, so that could have worked if they let it. If they kept going with it, it could have worked a little bit.
Definitely could have, but
my bad, sorry.
Man, Matt Hardy, I hope whatever decision he makes, it works out for him in his career. I feel like the Hardys, they need to just go on one last run with WWE and end it the right way.
Yep.
I think that their in-ring careers are slowing down a little bit, especially Matt. I think Jeff still has a little bit left in the tank,
Yep.
but I feel like Matt Hardy has slowed down a lot, and I'm not trying to disrespect him because he is one of my favorite wrestlers growing up. But I do think that Matt,
Those ladder matches.
It's time to hang up the boots. But moving on now to our last weekly news and rumors topic. Paul Heyman earlier this week has been inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame class of 2024. What's your thoughts on Paul being inducted?
Paul Heyman, he deserves it. He's the greatest manager of all time. I swallowed my pride last week and didn't want to admit it. But Paul Heyman is literally the greatest manager of all time. You see the guys he's managed, he's broken records with some of these guys. He's currently on a record-breaking reign with literally arguably the best wrestler in the world, a lot of people to say, in Roman Reigns. Paul Heyman's first ballot. He's first ballot. He was there when Brock Lesnar ended the streak. He was there when ECW was here. He was in WCW. He's been in WWE. Paul Heyman is just a legend, man. You got to give him his flowers now, too, while he's still here. And he's one of the greatest managers to cut promos of all time.
And let's not forget either, ECW. He really changed the professional wrestling industry with Extreme Championship Wrestling. We wouldn't have hardcore wrestling if it wasn't for ECW.
Yep. Paul Heyman is the pioneer of EC. He is the pioneer of Extreme Wrestling on to the next level. If he would have made it work a few more years into the 2010s, they really would be mainstream in Extreme Wrestling. A lot more compared to what they did.
I think with the newer ECW, the reason it didn't work was because that's when they just weren't listening to Paul Heyman's vision. They let him go, and yeah, that was that. But
it could have been good. ECW could have been good in the 2010s.
Oh, it definitely could have been if they just let Paul Heyman do his thing.
Yep.
But I do want to give my thoughts on Paul Heyman being inducted, and I think he is the greatest manager in wrestling history. I think that he is one of the best, and I can't believe it's taken WWE this long to put him in there. I know the reason why it's like that was because Paul Heyman, he didn't want to be in the Hall of Fame as an active performer. But I think the fact that WrestleMania has taken place in Philadelphia, where ECW was famous in that area, I think that it just worked out. And when it comes to sports entertainment and professional wrestling, you know what they say, timing is everything.
Yep.
And I think with Paul Heyman, absolutely deserves this, and I'm very excited to see who inducts him. because obviously Brock Lesnar, he's probably out of the picture now. So I wonder if he's going to keep kayfabe and have Roman Reigns induct him, or if he's going to have somebody from ECW induct him. That's the thing that I'm very fascinated and interested in.
It might be weird for me to say this name, but I think CM Punk should induct him.
I like that, though. I do like that.
I think CM Punk should do it.
Yeah.
Because, like, I don't want to say his name. He just said his name, but, Brock Lesnar. He should induct him, too, because they got a lot of history together, too. Like, from Brock Lesnar's rookie year to him returning, literally, and literally calling the Beast Incarnate. Paul Heyman started Suplex It. He literally trended all of that. Paul Heyman's always been a marketing genius and a promo genius, too.
The whole, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Heyman.
Yeah, but Paul Heyman has pioneered a lot more than people think he did. Like, y'all sleeping on him if y'all don't think so.
Hey, let's not forget either WCW, Paul E. Dangerously.
Paul E. Dangerously, that's what I mean. Like,
underrated.
Paul Heyman is he's the GOAT.
Great color commentator, great general manager. He's done it all, and I think that if there's a time to put him over, it's now in the WWE Hall of Fame class of 2024, so congratulations to Paul Heyman. But up next, we have our main event topic for this week's episode. We'll be right back with more We Are Wrestling Podcast episode 98. Are you looking for wrestling content? Well, We Are Wrestling provides everything pro wrestling. The best one, Donnie, Gins, and the Load Rager Ben, are wrestling marks like you who love this sport. We Are Wrestling has it all when it comes to wrestling content. We have different podcasts, vlogs, reactions, full wrestling matches, live pay-per-view watch-alongs, interviews, predictions, and so much more. Only on We Are Wrestling. What are you waiting for? Subscribe and become a We Are Wrestling Maniac now. We're back, and unfortunately, Ricky is not here with me right now. We actually ran into some technical difficulties. I didn't record the audio for our main event topic, and I do want to say this. I appreciate Ricky joining us here for the We Are Wrestling Podcast 98. It was very last minute what happened, and I thought he did a really good job, so please give him some love in the comment section below. But I will sum up our main event topic. We basically talked about John Cena being off WrestleMania weekend and what WWE should do with him. And my suggestion was John Cena, they should have him planted in the crowd for the Logan Paul versus Randy Orton United States Championship match. And I would have him just sitting there watching the match. And obviously I would do that because he's got history with Randy Orton. They have one of the greatest rivalries in the Ruthless Aggression era. Came from the same OVW class. And I think that it would just be a really cool nostalgic moment to see Randy and John just hug. I feel like that would get a really cool pop. And what they could do is Logan Paul could blame John Cena for costing him the United States Championship against Randy Orton, who I think is going to beat Logan Paul at WrestleMania. And what they could do is have Randy Orton be the champion, and eventually I would have him lose the championship to Karrion Kross or Santos Escobar. But I feel like Karrion Kross would be a perfect rival for Randy, and I think that he would be the right person to take the championship off of him, because Karrion did a great job back in NXT as the champion, and I think having the US title would definitely do a lot for him. But by getting there, I feel like Randy Orton has to beat Logan Paul, and I think John Cena, let's get that summer schedule opened up, because I think going into SummerSlam this year, I feel like a Logan Paul versus John Cena match would be huge. I think that it would get a lot of media buzz, and I think that they could put on a really good show. Plus, both of them are they're they're very trendy over on social media, so they can really build this up with Logan Paul's podcast, Impulsive. John Cena can make videos on his phone while he's on set, taking shots at Logan Paul. I feel like that would be a great SummerSlam match, and I feel like the best way to build that would be having John Cena in the crowd, front row, for WrestleMania 40, when Randy Orton goes against Logan Paul, because Ricky and I, we both agreed that we think John Cena cannot be in a match during Mania weekend, because it seems like the cards are already stacked for both nights. But I think that this would just be a great way to build something for the future, because I think Logan Paul and John Cena, that is money right there. Especially a lot of people outside of the sports entertainment business are going to want to see this match, and I think that would be the best way to make it happen. Set something up at Mania. Doesn't mean John Cena has to screw Logan, but Logan could blame John for being there and distracting him. But guys, let me know in the comments section below your thoughts on all the topics that we covered this week on the podcast. Give Ricky some love, because Ricky knows best. This was his very first time doing a full podcast on such short notice. I thought he did a really good job. So, let's build his confidence up and let's show him some love. If you guys enjoyed this week's episode, make sure to smash that like button now. If you're not a We Are Wrestling Maniac yet already, subscribe, turn on the post notifications. The link's down in the description below. You can go follow me over on my social medias and other YouTube pages. All that down below. Also, you can go follow Ricky over on his Instagram page. He's very active over there, so go give him some love and follow him there. All the links down below. And of course, to all the We Are Wrestling Maniacs out there worldwide, we are taking over. Peace.